Your pre-test, when you look through those things, you had
Say hi.
you had the picture that looked like this. You're gonna probably have to kind of follow along with me because I'm gonna end up sketching stuff up there. I'm gonna end up being kind of all over the place. But when you guys had this picture, first and foremost, I try to cover is parts and like basic motor components. With that, you start to learn terminology. Then we jump into tools, and I show you a couple little presentations about tools. There's a quiz on like 30 different tools. Not because I don't think that you've never used them, not because I think that you're idiots. Honestly, a lot of it's going to be a review for you. If you've ever turned a wrench, if I told you right now, go grab a vice grips, and you could go and you knew what you're looking for approximately. If I tell you to grab a Phillips screwdriver versus a flathead, if I tell you, say something about an Allen wrench, you're gonna know that I'm speaking of a hexagon-shaped tool as opposed to like some guy named Allen. Got it? Makes sense? A lot of this stuff is going to be review, but that's our baseline to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. So, yesterday was bad luck that I had to go take my dad, run him back to the hospital. So that's why we didn't go through this yesterday. I fully intended the stuff was ready to go for yesterday. But what you saw here on this sheet is very similar to, I'm just going to throw a couple of these around. You guys keep this. I want to keep one. Get one to William, if you would, please.
I have one over here.
Oh, you do? Perfect, then we're good. Then you guys can spread them around. This is a PowerPoint that walks through roughly in different looks than what these 14 are, but it kind of gets you along the same line. I wish that
Say
I
cheese.
had. Does
Kale.
anybody in the school have a projector? Yes, close up on Kayla. Love it. Do any of the other teachers use the clicker that automatically moves forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People have that.
Yeah.
Need that.
Should ask
Alright.
Mr. Bush for one.
When you're done with this, you should be able to kind of identify the major parts of an engine and the functions of some of them. You're not going to get a ton of them. Okay, gentlemen, take a look at that sheet in front of you. Take a look at that sheet. That sheet is showing the piston at top dead center. Okay? Top dead center. You're going to hear that, and you're going to see this that I'm going to talk about at different junctures throughout the year. But TDC, you ever see that acronym? What do you think that's going to mean? TDC. What do you think that means?
Top dead center.
Top dead center. Good job. Who said it? Kevin,
Cameraman.
congratulations. Nice job. That's top dead center. What do you think that one is?
Bottom dead center.
Bottom dead center. Thanks, William. Point being, ladies and gentlemen, that's as low as the piston can go and as high as the piston can go. Okay? That's what top dead center and bottom dead center mean. Everybody take a look at this. This is a good illustration to kind of show you what's going on. Right now that piston's coming down, and this is called a connecting rod. Okay, let's look at it. Here's the connecting rod. Okay? That part is the connecting rod. Okay? That piston can go up as high as right there. You guys see right there where it reaches as high as it can go. Okay, that's top dead center. And then when it's all the way down here, and actually it's when it's exactly, easiest way is just like when it's in that perfectly vertical position, that would be bottom dead center, as far that way as the piston can go. Which now ties us to, if we look on the sheet, And you guys might wanna just make updated notes. As I go along, you might wanna grab this sheet, make updated notes as we go. But what is number one? Actually, I think it's in here. I'm not gonna jump ahead yet. Okay, so gentlemen, this isn't on your sheet. Combustion chamber. A combustion chamber, what do you think happens in the combustion chamber?
Combustion.
Combustion. Weird. Weird. Rocket science, right? What's combusting?
Burning.
Say that again, Kevin.
Burning. Exploding. Oh.
Combustion is burning, right? Okay, when fuel is combusting, that's talking about burning. Okay? There's burning going on in there. So what's in there that burns? What?
Gas.
Say it. Nice and loud. Gas. Most of the time, I refer to things as fuel, okay? Because there could be diesel, there could be propane, there could be gasoline, and then that ties us into mixed gas and unleaded gas, regular gas. We'll talk a little bit about differences, but largely, gentlemen, it comes down to this premise is the same for almost everything, okay? Whether it's diesel gets a little squirrely. Two-cycle engines where you have to mix your gas, that gets a little squirrely. Most of everything that we're talking about, at least for the basic premise to begin with, is talking about four-cycle, okay, four-stroke. So when you hear somebody say four-cycle, this is a modern, or not even a modern, this is a common misconception. People think a four-cycle and a four-stroke. They don't realize that those mean the same thing. Okay, so if you hear somebody say two-cycle engine oil or a two-stroke engine, those are the same things, okay? Got it? Everything that we're talking right now is four strokes, though. If you look on the other sheet, the pre-quiz that I gave you, the pre-test, your first question is list the four strokes of a four-stroke engine in proper order, okay? We're gonna talk about those today or tomorrow. But yeah, combustion chamber. Deegan hit the nail on the head. That things are combusting. I wanted to talk about what's going to be combusting in there very shortly, but I'm going to move on. Otherwise, we're going to just talk about the whole thing and leave it on the same slide, and that's that. Okay, engine blocks. Okay, I told you the other day. This is like number 7 on here. I told you that this could be called a crankcase. This could be called a cylinder block. This entire casting, you guys see that this is all one piece, this, okay? All the way through this, it's all one piece. It's not like multiple pieces bolted together. That is one cast piece, and then this gets machined off to tolerances, this gets machined, that gets machined, all these things get machined and drilled and tapped. Okay, makes sense? Fair enough? So that on a small engine, that's all one piece. That's your cylinder block. When you're connecting rod brakes, you ever heard of an engine throwing a rod? Have you ever heard that term? That it threw a rod. Okay, here's what that means. That means this broke, and usually what it refers to is it blew a hole in the side of this. Why did you look at somebody? Did it to what? Four-wheeler? Yeah, it happens. Is that something that you can order a new part for? Largely not. It's not a part we're talking. That's this entire casting. So if that happens to, say, a four-wheeler or a snowmobile, whatever, you're looking at an entirely new engine block, and it may be cost prohibitive to explore your options with that. You may be better off to just buy a new motor. On other instances, you can find ones that have other broken parts and pieces, use them as like a donor, and then you wind up taking this with your other components and bring it together. But when we talk engine block or, yeah. Alright. I don't have it on this motor, but the cylinder heads, when we're talking about heads, trying to find. Randomly through this, you're going to see me just sneak into this room, steal some things, bring them back, and that's that. This is what your cylinder head looks like. Okay? Everybody thinks of this motor as operating pretty much like this. Okay? Anybody know what this motor is off of? Anybody got any idea?
Lawnmower.
Tiller?
How do you know that?
I just guess. The smaller one.
He's right. Okay? Lawnmower. Could also be something similar off of this. Could be a rototiller, definitely. Something in that caliber. Okay, if this was a rototiller, usually it's going to be mounted such like this. The recoil part where you pull would be over here, and that's this part. Okay, that's where the flywheel would attach, is on this taper. And then back here, there would be a pulley that's attached. There should be a keyway on here. See that little teensy keyway? There'd be a pulley that attaches to it. And then that'll turn some kind of a belt, okay? So it would operate something in the vicinity like this if it was on like a walk-behind rototiller. But I can tell you that this motor is almost exclusively, yeah, it is a walk-behind lawnmower, and it's in this position. Okay? Remember what I just told you earlier? Top dead center, bottom dead center? Is this now the top and the bottom? When that piston goes that way or this way? No, right? It's kind of like right or left or whatever. I need to stress that right now, and that's why I'm stressing it and kind of walking you down this path. That this same motor mounted in this vertical position like this, or this same motor laid on its side, this is still top dead center, this is still bottom dead center. It's just how far the piston goes this way and how far it goes that way. Make sense? Questions? I do want to hit on something. Everybody take a look back on the screen. You're going to hear me talk about, okay, throughout this quarter, I know right now, you guys didn't sign up for a class that you're like, I didn't plan on sitting here and getting talked to and lectured to and PowerPoints and this and this and this. You won't. In about a week or less, then we will start wrenching. But we have to go through basic parts and we have to go through basic tools, then we start wrenching. What kind of motion is this when this piston goes up and down? That piston is going to go like this, again and again and again and again and again and again. What kind of motion is that?
Awesome.
Vertical.
Close, you're close. But make believe that it wasn't straight up and down all the time, and sometimes it went horizontal.
Circular.
Opposite of circular. Starts with an L. What do you want to call it?
Linear.
Linear motion. Okay? This is linear motion. Okay? What are we outputting? Gentlemen, this piston is linear. It's going up and down in there, right? In that cylinder, it's going up and down. And it is turning into what?
Rotational force?
What?
Rotational force?
Who said it before?
Me?
The round. I said opposite of that. Okay, circular motion, right? 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 And what did you say? Rotational force. You try to church it up a little bit, right?
Sure.
You did. Okay. But it's rotational motion, right? Circular motion. Right? That's our output. Think of a tractor. What powers on a tractor? Normally, it's circular motion, either turning gears to turn the wheels, okay? Or, and what's on the back of a tractor? PTO. What does PTO stand for? It's an acronym.
Power takeoff.
Power takeoff. Okay? And what kind of motion is that? Circular, right? Again and again and again and again. So gentlemen, here's what I want you to, like, this is almost kind of a little light bulb moment with mechanics, that, like, with mechanisms in the human world. We use a fuel to burn here. What happens when a fuel burns?
It combusts.
It produces heat.
Creates pressure.
Pressure.
Why does it create pressure? I fill this can. I fill this can. I fill this can this far with gas. Okay? Right? Fill it that far with gas. I pound this lid back on. I have a wick in here. I light the wick and I run. What's gonna happen? Why is it gonna explode?
Because of pressure.
Because it needs, the gas needs to escape somewhere.
Why?
It expands.
It expands. That's what I need you guys to grasp right now. Okay? It doesn't just magically create pressure. It doesn't just magically explode. I can put gas, I can dump gas on this floor and light it on fire. Is it going to go poof? No. Because yeah, don't get me wrong, if I put a crap ton of it, right? But if I just put a small little Dixie cup or whatever of gas there and I lit it, if it's not contained, it doesn't actually blow up. Have you guys ever, I'm not in any way, shape, or form condoning ever lighting a fire with gas. But if you've ever seen it and seen how those fumes will travel and they'll just like burn on the ground, that's what's happening. It's not being contained, so it's not combusting and causing that pressure, right? It's just combusting in that it's burning, right? Fair enough? Questions? Okay. So what's happening here? A fuel is put in here and some kind of spark is put into it. When that spark happens, it combusts and it expands. Is there any more room right now? Okay, right there. What's happening in this piston got all the way to the top. You gotta turn it a little bit because now it's stuck. It's all the way to the top. And then what happens? Okay. Then what happens is that fuel and air. Oh, Chase Canucks in the back too if you need him. What happens is that fuel and air ignites. And when that fuel and air ignites, it pushes this down and it goes boom and blows it all the way to the bottom. Make sense? That's what's happening. In a nutshell. How many times does that happen? Very, 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 very rapidly. If you guys have ever heard the term, the acronym RPM, what does that mean?
Reps per minute.
Revolutions per minute. Okay? So what that's talking about is how many times in a minute is this thing revolving? Okay? We're going to talk about how that stuff, there's so many terminology and parts and things that are so interconnected that I want to cover right away early in the course. And yeah. So that's our combustion chamber. Yes, now we've talked about expansion. Cylinder head is that part up top. It bolts on top, over top of the cylinder. Okay, what's a spark plug? Spark plug looks like that. Everybody seems to know. I guess, I'm not. If you don't know this, I'm not. Like you're not a bad guy. It's very common sensey for a lot of people that a spark plug creates spark to ignite fuel, right? Right? Okay, why else would we have a spark plug? Well, it creates the spark. So what happens, gentlemen, is this cylinder head goes on here like this. There's a spark plug that goes in this hole in the center. Okay, you can see how these two cutouts, these are for our valves, and it allows release so that the valves can come up and down and raise and lower. And this is not the right cylinder head for this motor, but it's close enough to depict what's going on. So what's going on here is that spark is right there, and these valves, I gotta get where you guys can all see. Maybe we'll scoot that back a little. Okay, I'm gonna point this out for everybody. Can you guys see this port? Okay, this port is connected with this valve. This port is connected with this valve. So here's how it works. There's two valves. Anybody know what those two valves are? Intake and exhaust, okay? So if you think about breathing, think about if you had to breathe in like just through your nose or something and breathe out just through your mouth, or vice versa. And that's how it works. I don't know if these valves, no, there's no cam gear. Nothing's gonna work. But as it's going, so come here. Can you guys see well enough? So here's what's happening. I'm going to start this thing, okay? I put my choke on. When I put my choke on, anybody know what the choke does in a carburetor?
Limits the amount of air. Increases the amount of fuel.
So it is richer, you're right. But okay. Let me see if I get a carburetor handy. I don't know if I do or not. We'll jump into it when we get into the carburetors more specifically, but here's what happens. There's three things needed on your this sheet, your second question. I said the 4 strokes is the first question. The second question is, what 3 things does it need to run? What 3 things does your motor need to run? You're gonna hear this from me. If today is the first time, you're gonna hear it another 20 times in the next, I don't know, 16 weeks that I have you. What 3 things does your motor need to run? I don't care if you know it or not, but I want you to try. What do you think it needs to run? What? Okay, fuel. Fuel. What else? What did you say? Spark. It needs something to ignite said fuel. What's the last one? Air. Does it need compression? Does it need all these things? Yes. But these are like the 3 basics that everything that we need, right? If we take out and blow a hole through the side of your, like if you were to drill a hole into your combustion chamber and it doesn't have compression, then yeah, Reed's absolutely right. Then you need compression and you need all these other things. But those are your 3 cornerstones. Deegan's gonna bring in a motor. He's gonna say, yeah, it worked, I don't know, it worked last October and now we can't get it running. What are we gonna check for? We're gonna check that it gets spark. We're gonna check that it's getting fuel, okay? Is the fuel filter plugged? Is a line pinched off? Is your gas tank like rusted out in the inside? Things like that would cause it to stop, okay? To stop feeding fuel. And then lastly, we check your air filter system to make sure that there's not a mouse nest or something that would block pulling in air, okay? Think about it like, you guys remember COVID? Were you guys all alive during COVID? Yeah? How old were you? 4th grade? 3rd grade? What grade were you in?
I think I was in 3rd.
Do you remember when you went back to school? Like, remember when we got shut down in March? And then we went back to school the following fall? What grade were you in?
I'm in the 5th grade.
What?
Third.
Third grade? Okay, so you were give or take third grade. So some of you are sophomores. You're sophomore? So you would have been a fourth-ish. Do you remember having to wear those masks? You remember Phi Ed class? Remember running around in Phi Ed class and you got, like, maybe you got short for breath faster than you did before? I remember that next year when we came back and students had to wrestle, play basketball, play football with these masks on, right? So you remember that? That you physically got a little less air because you're wearing a mask and you're breathing through that, right? Same thing can be said for your motors. If you take and cover up that air intake, it's not going to run at all or as well, okay? So those are the three things that are needed. Spark plug, we'll talk about when and why it fires on at certain times, but really that's all that it does in a nutshell is it's there to provide spark. Where does that electricity come from to provide that spark? It comes from the battery, right? Come from the battery?
Stator or
What?
coil. Stator.
It does. It's called a stator or a coil, magneto, depending which style of motor we're talking. That's a modern, or not a modern, that's a misconception that I want to kind of dispel right away. Some students think, oh, it's got a battery. Like I go out to my car and I turn the key, that the battery juice from the battery goes to my spark plugs. It doesn't. Okay? On a car, it's an alternator, is sending electricity back. Well, actually, the alternator, it's different, a little different on cars, but your alternator is actually recharging the battery. But yes, I need you to just know that it's not electricity from your battery that's like bzz, sending over to your spark plug. We'll talk about those later a little bit more. Okay, valves. We alluded to valves. This motor in particular, how it works is when it gets to a certain point, this valve opens up and it sucks air and fuel in this port and it goes up, comes out around this valve, so that valve pops up and allows air and fuel to come in here, and what happens is it sucks it down. So everybody kind of think about this once. This is like this. I want you, come here. I want somebody to put their hand over the top. Put your hand tight over the top. You feel that suction? Okay, somebody else. Feel that suction?
Yeah.
Come on, put your hand on there. Feel it? Ready? Seal it tighter on there. Did you feel it? You feel the suction? Okay, now I'm pushing back out. Anybody else want to try it? Okay. You need to.
No.
I don't want you to feel left out. I'm worried about you. But in a nutshell, it is weird, but it like when you seal this, it will like, well, you can see my hand. See my hand actually physically. I'm not doing this. That's not my muscles. That's the vacuum drawing it down. Okay? Why do I try to like, why did I go over the top to depict that? Because what's happening is this is all sealed. And when it goes down, it's pulling air and fuel in, okay? So here's what happens. It gets all the way to the bottom. I know you guys can't see from where you're sitting, but the piston's way down here. Now it's gonna push way back up, okay? Nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. This is the compression stroke. So what do you think we called that first stroke when it went down?
Intake.
What?
Intake.
Intake is correct. William, you're up. Write those underneath, I don't know, in between where it says fuel and profile. Right, intake. Right, number one, intake. One, intake. Okay. The second one, gentlemen, it was down at the bottom. Okay, I pull the recoil. I'm spinning this thing on my own. This goes back up to the top, just like this. What do you think we call that? It pulled it down and now it's pushing back up like an accordion, right?
Speak up,
Pull it
Deacon.
apart and back. What do you call it? Compression. Two is compression. Here's what happens, gentlemen. This is the part that I got a graphic on one of my little slideshows. But right, so if you guys can see the piston, right about there. So from there to about here, it sparks. So you guys see where I'm at, right there, just before top dead center, right there, it sparks. But the momentum of this crankshaft spinning, bring it to here, it sparks to about there. And it's, what do we call that stroke? Any idea? And what it is it's when it
Combustion.
goes from there to there. Power stroke. Okay? Power stroke. Or, what I think you were starting to say it.
Combustion.
Combustion. Okay? So it's a power stroke or the combustion. Okay? Okay, now gentlemen. Piston pushed all the way to the bottom. Now the centrifugal force is going to push the centrifugal force. You guys see these big weights on here? See these big weights on this crankshaft? If it wasn't for which one? Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. Getting carried away. I go to right to the bottom, and then it's going to push back up. And right now, what do you think that last stroke is? At that last stroke, this valve is actually going to open up and push those gases out of the motor and dispel them. What is that one? Exhaust is the last one. There's your 4 strokes. Have you guys ever heard a 4-cycle engine run?
Yeah.
What do you hear?
4.
Boom, 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 boom.
No, you don't. You hear pop, 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 or like pop, 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 right? Right? You give it more fuel and it goes pop, 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 pop. You give it less fuel and it goes pop, 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 right? Right? Out of these, which one is gas actually burning? Which one?
Combustion.
Only this one. Okay? Right there is the only one that we got pow. How fast is this happening? A lot. Right? Very rapidly. This one, every time that piston comes down, it's just pulling fuel in. Every time that piston goes back up, it's just compressing. Right here it goes pow! And then there it pushes the gas out. That's what's going on. That's happening multiple times per second. You smell what I'm stepping in? So I need you to grasp, like that's what's going on. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to those 3 things. That fuel, spark, and air that I want to hit on that you need. What else? Those springs, you can kind of see the springs. We'll talk about those. So, a camshaft gear or a cam gear. I don't have it on that motor in front of you, but they're going to be on the motors that you're going to take apart in a couple days. And what it is, gentlemen, is there's a motor, or I'm sorry, there's another gear that goes right here, and it actually rides on a gear that would be here. This gear is missing off of this one. Again, that's why this motor is sitting here, is it's a parts and pieces and random stuff. There's enough random parts and pieces from small engines that I don't know what fits with certain motors anymore, but I keep them as random little talking points and talking tools. But that cam gear is going to make sense a little more later on. Except I want to point this up. This and this. Are you guys familiar with what a cam is? You've probably heard this term. Are you familiar with what a wheel is? Yes or no?
Yeah.
What shape is a wheel?
Circle.
make believe that's a perfect circle. Okay? Make believe that's a perfect circle. A cam is kind of like that, except usually a cam has some kind of a lobe off of it. Okay? So the way that that's designed is that cam revolves. Now think of this being like, make believe that my pen is the end of that lobe and it's going to spin in a circle. And if there's something sitting on it, it's going to be right there, right there, right there, right there. You see how when I revolve this part of it, when I revolve it here, it's going to push up and then back down. And then I go around again and I get to right here and it pushes up and back down. That's what's opening and closing your valves. Okay? So this cam gear, camshaft, that whole deal is what's actually raising and lowering your valves. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's crankshaft. Crankshafts come in many shapes and different shapes and sizes. This one is pretty self-explanatory for, or pretty, I don't know, pretty common. Like this type of a style is pretty common for these small engines that we're gonna encounter a lot in here. This is off a Briggs & Stratton motor. I only know this because it's got the Briggs & Stratton emblem and then it's a part number on here. Stuff like that. But yeah, pretty run of the mill for a small motor about this size. As the motors get bigger, you get bigger crankshafts. Crankshaft is kind of like the center nucleus to everything because that is what your connecting rod, this is the connecting rod again, that attaches the piston to the crankshaft. That attaches to the crankshaft, and that again is how we take that linear motion and we turn it into circular motion. And then that circular motion is our output. Governors are different. They can regulate speed. They can regulate certain different things. But a lot of the time, they're just there to keep your engine from going over what its capacity would be. Go ahead. See ya tomorrow.